A very warm welcome to all of you. It really is my pleasure to introduce you to Professor Irudaya Rajan again. And Professor Rajan is very kindly doing a second lecture on international student migration. We've already heard him speak about Kerala Migration Survey. And as you know, Professor Rajan is the chairman of the International Institute of Migration and Development, IMAD. And Professor Rajan was a professor at the Center for Development Studies for and he nearly has 40 years of postgraduate experience. Currently, he is the chair of NOMAD, the Global Knowledge Partnership on Migration and Development at the World Bank, Working Group on International Migration and Urbanization. Professor Rajan is very widely published, and he currently also edits the journal. He's the editor-in-chief of Migration and Development. He edits the annual series of the India Migration Report since 2010 and the South Asia Migration Report since 2017, published by Routledge. Today, he'll be talking to us about international student migration, a very important area of migration research. Over to you, Professor Rajan. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Amrita, for inviting me to speak on the second lecture. What I will do in the next 30 minutes, I'll give you some broad idea on the link between internal and international student migration. From there, I will give you some numbers on the international student migration from India. Then I'll provide an example from the latest Kerala Migration Survey 2023 on the student migration. Next slide, yeah. So this is something which I wanted to tell you, because whenever people talk about international student migration, we should also think of there is a link between internal and international student migration. Now people are asking every time why suddenly there is an increase in the student migration, leaving their state and studying outside, leaving their state and studying outside the country. What are the reasons? I think I would like to start in the beginning itself. There are several reasons for both internal and international student migration. Some of them applicable to both. The first one is the demographic situation changing in the country. What I call them demographic change. The number of children born per woman has declined like anything. As per the latest National Family Survey, an average Indian woman bears just 2 children. That means children are getting so important in all families. Because of the number of children coming down, then there is a pressure for the parents to put their children to best school, best university, anywhere in the world, because there is not a big money problem. I think the decline of number of children have created a large group, what I call them the growth of new middle class. Both the parents working or one person working, they have only one child. Because for example, Kerala, 30% couples are currently having just 1 child. They are ready to put as much money as possible to put their children in the best schools, even in the LKG, UKG, upper primary. You can talk anything, they start from them and then continue to move them to even bachelors people are leaving. So I call them the growth of middle class. And also, without our knowledge, we always talk about inequality in income, wealth and other things, but we are not talking about inequality in educational infrastructure in the country. For example, Bangalore has 34 universities, one city. So anybody want to put their children, they can go to Bangalore, they can go to one university, they say no, they can go to another university. So Bangalore accommodate 34 universities, Chennai 16, Delhi 25, Pune 23. So we call them educational city, because they are all going there, because there are a lot of universities there. I think because of the inequality in education infrastructure, people from the rural areas, people also from the area where they don't have big facilities, they are moving to the cities. This is part of the maybe cities growth. And then what is coming up now, there are a lot of exams are happening in the country. For many things, you have to clear some test. For example, recently there was a Russian-Ukraine war. I met one of the father whose daughter was in Ukraine during the time of war. Then I asked her, why did you send, you are only one daughter, why did you send her to the to those countries where you know that there are problems always? And he said, look, I have only one daughter and she wants to become a medical doctor, and she said she cannot clear NEET. She cannot clear NEET, but she wants to become doctor. And then I went to private universities so that she can go for the doctor, but then they said 20 lakhs. Then someone told me, look, there is a place called Georgia. You can do it with 18 lakhs. So people are investing that, and he told me that I have only one daughter and she wants to become doctor. I can't make her why I am living there in this world, because this I want to fulfill my daughter's dream. So this is called what we call them the new middle class, new demography. And then added to that, the parents' aspirations are increasing on their children, and children aspire more. For example, my children aspire more than me. So you can imagine that everybody's aspiration is getting up. And this is also again happened recently when I went to the engineering college to give a talk on engineering students the last semester. I asked them, there were 60 students. I asked them, how many of you willingly came to study engineering? Out of the 60, only 10 people said we came to study engineering on our own interest. 30% said because my family wanted, our family should have an engineer. My mother wanted, my father wanted, somebody told me my grandmother wanted that our family should have an engineer. Imagine that people are coming to study because of the parents' aspiration. I have only one daughter. I want to put her as things. So there are a lot of pressure on the children, and also you see that leads to even children committing suicide in some of the institutes, and you can see that there is a lot of pressure. They are putting all the parents' aspirations are put on the children's aspirations. Sometimes they are not, that aspiration is not matching. They want them to make engineer. For example, recently one girl who recently passed away, she wrote, Papa, I cannot study. I am leaving. I can't study. You put me for NEET exam to prepare. I can't prepare. I can't do. You want me to make me a doctor? I can't make. So I am leaving I'm leaving my life. I think this is very important because of the one child family, two children family. There is a lot of pressure. Next slide. And look at the, let us discuss something on international student migration. What is happening, the current trends, and why people are now shifting from city like Bangalore, Delhi, Mumbai, they are going to other countries. I think this is something happening because one of the important reasons is there is a huge loan facility available in India right now. People can take educational loan. All the banks are opening up. People are putting their houses as a loan. And second thing, many parents and many educational agents, especially the recruitment agents, they are telling them you get a visa to America. As a student, you will get a PR. They think that student visa is an entry to the PR without knowing there's a person called Donald Trump is sitting there. Without knowing that, there is a change in the destination countries, but they are our agents in our countries are selling dreams to the Indian young students. And many countries, they are inviting Indian students because they are making huge money. Many countries, the university are surviving because of the students' migration. It's like a milky cow for them in UK, in Canada, in Australia, especially the English-speaking countries. And you can look at it, for example, take Canada. A lot of issues are going on. Still, you can see we have doubled. From 2019, we have doubled the international students number. And there was some issue last year. I think it will pick up again. USA, it will come down now next year because of the Donald Trump, then it will pick up again. And UK, there are some issues because of the visa. They are not giving +1, +2. So there are issues. But you can see in overall, you can see Germany is picking up. And European countries are picking up. And you can see like Georgia, people are going for medicine. And if you look at it in a total perspectives, what you see from 2019 to 2024, which we have data, student migration have doubled. I'm giving you only some countries. But in the UAE, for example, British Dubai campus, half of them are Indian students. Some of them are born in the Gulf. We call them first generation students. Some of them are, going from here to Gulf because Gulf is familiar for them. You get the same degree. A lot of, like for example, New York University, they have an place in Dubai. So you don't need to go to New York University. You can study in Dubai. You get a New York University degree. And second thing, New York University might come even to Delhi after some time. I think we have to look at it in the context of the international our new education policy. Recently, Indian government approved many universities to come and invest in India. So what is going to happen, the future international student migration, we don't know. With the right-wing politics in many of the countries. And in fact, for example, recently Toronto said our housing problem in Canada is because of the student migration. But now they said now they are saying we were wrong. That is not the case. But then already the damage has been made, like a one-day news. Damage has been made, and there is a reduction of students to some of the universities in Canada because it's a big pressure on them. Everything now they blame the students. And in fact, though we talk about students in one category, these students also being what we call them used for the what is called the low skill work. In fact, one of the context I told in one of the meeting with both the Indian and the state governments, saying that earlier we used to sell low skilled workers to Gulf countries, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, Kuwait. Now we are sending low skilled and unskilled worker to almost 150 countries in the world. But the visa is student migration. This is something we really have to look at it. And they are being de-skilled. After masters, they do work which is just for an hour $10 or an hour 10 euros, and they are working. And the process, they don't study. They just to work to pay the money back. And I call them failed dreamers. They went a dream to settle in Germany. They are returning back because they are not able to survive. They could not get the degree. And I call them failed dreamers. When they come back, they are not even respected again. There is a stigma, the return migration, which I will come in the next slide. Next slide, please. I will give you a example from what is happening on the international migration from the Kerala case study we have completed recently from the Kerala Migration Survey. In fact, of course, you know that Kerala have a long history of labor migration. Now we are moving towards student migration. In fact, 2018, Kerala had 2.1 million migrants, and Sakaria predicted it will be declining in 2023. And we were wrong now in 23, not because of anything happened anywhere, because the age at leaving Kerala was 21. Now age at leaving is 17 years. Labor migration has been, what is called added by the student migration. And because of that, what we finally end up is 2.2 million people. And you can see that many districts have shown a decline officially, but at the overall Kerala migration have increased 2.1 to 2.2 million because of the student migration from Kerala. They have changed the migration pattern in Kerala. Next slide. And you can look at it, the students today in Kerala, 1 out of 10 people leaving Kerala are student migrants. 1 out of 10 people. We are slowly people getting into Europe. I think it is also good for Kerala because earlier 80% people goes to Gulf, now 20% going to non-Gulf. It's a good sign, but they are going as student migrants, and how much of them are going to survive there and how much of them are going to come back, what policy India should have or Kerala should have on not the regular return labor migrant. Now you are going to have a return students coming back. It's a different return migration, the profile. It is not the so-called return migrants who came through the normal return from the Gulf. After 10-year work, they come back. No, this is a different type of return migrants. Are India prepared for that? I think these are all big questions. We have to look at it. And you can see that now, as early as 17 people are leaving. People are leaving for graduation from Kerala now. In our days, when I was young, people used to go for PhDs. Then later I saw people used to go for masters. Now people started going for graduate. I think now people might go for even for the 10th standard to countries. I have no idea what is going to happen because people are investing so much money on that one child. It's like a precious, it's like investing in gold, investing in house, investing in child. I think the child, what we call them child crafting or child become very important, and education is another important component in our life to make our children. So we are ready to invest, even take loan and invest money on their children's higher education. Next slide. And look at the student migration we have. What you have seen in India, you can see that in 2018, we have 1.1, close to 1.2 lakhs, 1,229,000 students went to study. In 23, doubled. And imagine after COVID-19, there would have been no speed breaker called COVID crisis. Still migrant doubled, but you can imagine it was a normal period. There was no problem in US. There was a problem in the US. There was a problem in Canada. There was a problem in UK. Australia, there was a students were killed. A lot of issues are happening. Still you saw doubling. That's why they always tell, when you study migration, we talk about 2008-9 global crisis. And 2020, we had health crisis. Now we have Trump crisis. So all crises are different. Economic crisis, health crisis, now Trump crisis. Everything will go for 3 to 4 years. Then I think we'll come to normal. But still you can see that student migration doubled from Kerala in 5 years. And last year, 50,000 crores went from Kerala to other countries as student fees. So we received 200,000 crores. That means 25% of the remittances from Kerala went what we call them outward remittances. Nobody talks about that. We only talk about inward remittances. India receives $125 billion. India is number one. Of course, student migration, India is number one. But how much money we are going to put there? That means people are investing $20,000, 20,000 euros, 20,000 thing, and they are also doing unskilled worker. Earlier, people spend 1 lakh and go and work as an unskilled worker. Now they are spending 20 lakhs and helping the economy in some of the rich countries. They are helping them to grow. Next slide. Now the interesting thing is that this international student migration is not just limited to Punjab or Gujarat or Kerala. During the COVID, during the Russian war, the Minister of External Affairs came to the parliament and he said that we brought 22,000 people, and he has given name of states with 1,000 people. And there were many states like Bihar, like Uttar Pradesh, like Himachal Pradesh. Everybody is sending student migration. It's not just, Kerala is sending. And why I put the Kerala number, you can see that every state, every district is sending. Some districts are more. Why, for example, why Ernakulam is more? There are a lot of agents are selling them dreams. Maybe there are a lot of people to cheat them there. I think there's like a recruitment agents are there to cheat them or convince them to go to, some countries. I think that you can see that, city, Ernakulam, Trichur, where you have the huge number of agents. You can walk around, you will see, any place you will see that it's happening in Chennai. It's happening in Delhi, Mumbai, you want to go to US, you want to go to UK. I think the trend is moving, and you will see that the student migration will accelerate for the next 10 to 15 years, along with India's demographic dividend. You have a youth, and India cannot accommodate the youth coming in. There is also, we should talk about the education infrastructure in our country. So automatically there is a chance of people going out. And the point is that our money will go, but some of them will return back. They may not get PR. So what our policy towards return student migration. Next slide. And you can also see it is not a big differential between male and females. For example, in Kerala, 20% only the female immigrants, as a labor migrants, nurses, housemaids, teachers. And males were close to 80%. But you look here, not much difference between males and females. So the females equally traveling for higher education. So it is nothing, it's not like a male phenomena. The labor migration, we always talk about male phenomena. Here it's not like the 45%. In fact, some of the countries, they are more, 53, 54. Next slide. And we would also, this type of data is not available for any places because of the KMS. We have this data. You can look at it. You look at UK, you look at Canada. We have individual countries. We are getting some data right now from Kerala. You can imagine. But I was telling them you should open a UK embassy probably in Kerala. Why should the UK students should go to Chennai? Like Canada has a, the Punjab has a, Canadian embassy in Chandigarh. So the students are going in. We have the UAE embassy in Canada. So you can look at it, UK, Canada, Gulf countries, and you can see that it's not like a very much difference between males and females. Females also equally traveling for higher studies. Next slide. And you can look at it. I have already given some of the points. What are the factors driving student migration? I told you there are better education opportunities. People think they can learn something different from our countries. In fact, some tweeting. But some of the courses, when I talk to people in abroad, they just to tweet the course. Someday they will say MSc in economics. We say MA economics, for example. Or they will add something, mathematical economics. Like we are all now trying to do that. I think something, people believe that if you send our children to abroad, they may learn more. Like we used to believe the private schools are better than the government schools. We used to believe that. I think still we believe. We put all our children in private schools. We pay them higher fees. We give them parallel tuition for our children because we think the private education offers. Now we are converted from private education in India to the private universities in abroad, because many universities you have to pay, not many fellowships. And then, as I said earlier, limited quality or limited courses. I think we should also talk about capacity building of some of our teachers. I think this is also very, very important, because some of our teachers also should be, along with the, attracting the student to their own colleges. In fact, recently I went to one of the colleges in Kerala. It's only for women. I went to the sociology department. They said we have 40 seats full. Then I said, some of the colleges nobody's going. They said, sir, we are campaigning with them to help them to study IAS. So we are full, sir. We have no problem. So they have modified that. They have an hostel, they have a library, they have a mentor who stays there. I think this is important. So you have to change. I think Indian universities and Indian teachers have to change. And also, some people believe there is a global recognition of foreign degrees. They say that some of the top institutions like central universities, IITs and IIM, they do prefer, or even private university, like some of the universities, somebody comes from abroad with a PhD degree and somebody comes with a PhD degree from an university from here. And then there is some type of, okay, you have come from abroad, because they might have even published in what we call them Q1 journals. So automatically there is a possibility they think that let my son go and study in US and come back. I think that is something people are talking about. I have only one son. I'll put money. There is no fellowship. There is no problem. And the last point is there is a employment pathways, because the current students living in all the countries will be the future labor force in their countries. Many of them who goes as a student, they are all now working in many countries, and then they get PR. For example, Kamala Harris' mother went from Chennai as a student. So from Chennai, she went as a student to study in the US. Rest is history. You can study about her, but she went as a student visa. And then she married, settled down, and she had a US citizen, children born there, US citizen. And, I think people believe that it's all will be a direct route. I think today the routes are very difficult. It is not easy that you go as a student, you will be established as a PR. And that's why we have to train people before they leave. We should have some type of a pre-departure training program for students. In fact, I'm talking with the Kerala government to give them some pre-departure. This is not the vehicle card by getting a PR. If you get a student visa, it is not automatic. You will get a PR. I think they should go with that. Otherwise, they will come with a failed, depressed return migrants. Next slide. I think this is the basically what will be the implication for Kerala and India. Demographic shifts, young people are leaving. So again, the will come, brain drain. Our best minds are going to study abroad. And then, of course, they don't study. They do work. They fill the labor market. I call them what is called the parallel labor market or shadow labor market. There's a shadow level. You don't see them, but they are working there. They are working there 8 hours, 9 hours. Some of the universities, some of the countries now are asking them, they can work 12 hours now. For example, in Germany, they are opening up now. They can work for more hours. If they are working for more hours, are they going to work to earn money to pay back loan, or they are going to really study? I think this is very, very important. And also long-term impact on the labor market. Many of them are coming back. What will happen to the labor market? People go to PhD and come back. They compete in universities. What will be the future labor market looks like? We have no idea on that. But there are problems on the household. There are households, they are not able to pay the loans and they are selling their houses. We have started seeing in Kerala right now. I think this is a very important component. We should look at it. Last slide. So what is the future? What I think we should do that? Student migration likely to grow further. I don't think you can stop that because there is still what I call them mad rush. This is not the real rush. This is like a first day, first show movie. First day, first show movie. When you say first show, everybody will go. Second show, nobody will be there. So I think there is a rush now because of the social media network, educational fairs, educational agents. The universities have some people in India to recruit them. They are paying them money for that. I think it's a big what's called the labor mafia. It's the future labor. I think a big thing happening. So it will continue for maybe 10 to 15 years. Then we may not have any demographic dividend. So I think 10 to 15 years, I think many countries will benefit by Indian money. I will say not Indian students, Indian money. We will feed many universities to grow in many countries, not just in the English-speaking countries. Now we are also helping the other countries now to grow. Countries we have not even heard about them. They are building new hostels. They are building new courses. They are exporting again teachers from our country. I think so. A lot of things are happening around. It will also happen more in Africa regions. I think it's going to be a big thing. And also we are getting diversification in destination countries. I think very important now. People are shifting from US, UK, Canada to Europe. Earlier people think Europe was like a fortress Europe. Europe people will not go, but I think now the Europe situation is changing, partly because they are more friendly now. When they will change, we don't know, but still but then there is a language issue. For example, now everywhere I see, walk in Kerala, you want to learn German, please come. So German language is being taught in many places because they want to go to German, Paris, French language. But I was telling them why that Kerala people should learn German instead of that. Maybe German people can learn Kerala, Malayalam. Maybe it's much easier. Like the Gulf, they have a crash course. All the Arabs are learning Malayalam. So maybe we should talk about, why only they come and invest us to learn their language. Why can't they learn our language? Why can't the doctors in Germany learn, Malayalam so that they can work with the Malayali nurses? Why is that Malayali nurses should learn, German and talk to I think we should think this type of new issues come up. And I also personally feel regulating overseas education consultancy will be an important thing. I think the government is coming with a new immigration bill. There was a discussion going on that. I think it's very important we should talk about some regulation because at the end of the day, we are talking about legal, safe and orderly migration. And many students now overstaying and they will be the future undocumented migration in many countries. I think we don't want to create an undocumented migration in the name of students. They are all underground. I think this is going to be something we should really look into that. And then we should also have the support system for student migrants abroad. In fact, the last India migration report was on student migration. In fact, the whole book is open access. And when I was visiting a study on Indian students in Canada, one of the medical professional who is helping on clinical psychology, they said every week one Indian student is committing suicide in Canada. So I think we have to have a lot of support system in the countries of destination. We are talking about labor attaché for the labor migrants. I think we should have a strong support system in the Indian embassies, countries where there are more students are there. They should have a specialized wing to take care of the support system because there are some students also being cheated there. They go to the college, that college does not exist, the course does not exist. All issues are there. I think this is very, very important. We should talk about support system. Very, very important. And the last one, India should really think seriously. If they are going to come back, they are not going to get a PR. They are going to come back after their masters or after their doctoral, after their 5-year work in countries. They are coming back. Is India ready to welcome the return migration of students, not the return migrants of labor? We have rehabilitation policies for labor migrants. What policies India can imagine to accommodate them in the labor market and integrating them to our labor market? I'll stop here. Amrita, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for some of those latest statistics of country-wise migration, but also taking us through the broader issues related to student migration. And as you mentioned, how migration for education and migration for work is so intertwined, and then students in turn work in the shadow labor market, right? So, I mean, all of these are very important issues. They've been there for a long time, but the scale of these issues has really compounded in current years. And specifically, like you mentioned, the Western countries now have taken a very hard line towards immigration. And in such a context, it's very interesting how we had the British Prime Minister who was in India last week. And there was this whole, because now it's harder for students to migrate, they don't want our students to go there. So now British universities are setting shop in India. And, so as you mentioned reverse remittances, right? But this is also with our education system kind of, having its own challenges, and the British universities coming and other foreign universities coming and setting shop here. How do you make sense of that development? What are your views on that?
No, I think we have to wait and watch. I think because it's like something happening now in the new education policy, student migration. I think we have to wait and see. It can create what is called maybe like we call them two types of citizens, within our own country. Maybe citizens studying in foreign universities in India, like we have private universities, we have IITs, IIMs, like we have classes, like we have talked about class in economics, cost, like that. There may be different groups will emerge, and there will be a lot of, again, inequality will come in, and probably there will be wages and salary structure might different, or they may come and they may study here, then they may even migrate there to other countries. They may get a degree from London School of Economics, probably in Delhi, then they may go to again UK to teach, or they go to US. So we don't know the mechanism. I think it's all wait and watch. And also, one side you have a new education policy which is being rolled out, which approves not just from UK. I know UK, they are going to come, 25 universities are going to come, and everybody will come to India. Definitely, it's not just UK. When you open it up, it's for every country. You cannot say don't come. Every country will come. So I think then you will have a lot of, costing of fees. Things will come. A lot of things is going to come in, and there will be issues. And also the related that, how they are going to the faculties. It's like you register here, you go and spend 6 months there. That some type of internships, future collaboration, or there may be offer. You study in UK education in India, there may be a point for them to get a PR, maybe 40 points or 50 points. Again, they will try to attract them in, at least giving them some chance you can migrate back to UK. I think they will play a lot of politics there. After all, there is a big money involved in education now today, because as I said earlier, parents are ready to invest so much money for their children. But someone said, I paid 1 crore, my son got a visa to go to Canada. Life is settled. That's it. That is the way we think educational student visa.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Education has become such a commodity, and education migration also needs to looked at in that perspective first, structurally. And then, of course, we need to talk about migration. Professor Rajan, we're very grateful to you for taking time out and doing this talk with us. This is such an important topic, and such little work has been done on it. And as you mentioned, the India Migration Report 2023 is specifically devoted to the theme of student migration. So students who are interested in this area can definitely have a look at this report that you have edited. Thanks a lot, Professor Rajan. So that was one of the last lectures of this course on international student migration. Again, like Professor Rajan mentioned, it's a very, very important topic, and very little scholarly work has been done in the area of international migration, international student migration. And as you can see, as he explained, the numbers have really gone up, despite destination countries having adopted a more harder line towards student migration. And one of the fundamental things that we saw, how the age of migration is declining. right? So like from the Kerala migration surveys, you can see how the age of migration used to be 21 earlier, and now the first age of migration is 17. So the age of migration has reduced drastically, and student migration has become very, very popular. But what we also see is that there is a shadow labor market. Students go and work in this labor market, and they actually sort of contribute to the destination economies where they are going. And in turn, what we also see is that many students now, you know, you can see it in the India Migration Report, how students actually find it hard to support themselves and study. So many students actually don't complete their degrees abroad and so on. And there's also the very important issue of reverse remittances, right? So when you have students going and studying, parents are, like Professor Rajan mentioned, parents are spending a huge amount of money and taking loans and sending their students abroad to study. So this is some kind of a reverse remittance that is happening. Migration for education is also very complex. It's very closely related to work, and very often students aspire to go to work and settlement. So education is actually seen as a pathway to the labor market and to permanent settlement. But whether that actually happens or not depends a lot on destination countries, their policies, and so on and so forth. So this is definitely an area where more research is needed, and I hope that lecture by Professor Iridya Rajan help you contextualize the key issues in international student migration. With that, we come to the end of this session. Thank you very much.